When we begin to draw, the first thing we need to do is understand what is in front of us. We need to train our eyes to see minor details, and we need to stop assuming that we know exactly what the shape of an eye is and how it works. We see eyes so often in our everyday lives that we end up drawing what we think we see rather than what we can actually experience. In this lesson, we'll be looking at the finer details and deconstructing the eye so that you have a better understanding of its constructs. Once we break it down, we're able to put the pieces back together onto our paper. Take a minute now to write down all the details that you can see in this photograph and see if we have the same list. I'll start you off with a few examples. In this photograph, I can see an iris, some eyelashes, some veins. Now, over to you. So hopefully you got the obvious. We've got the eyebrow, the eyelid, the top eyelashes, but notice that they actually don't come up like this, which many people end up drawing. They actually come across to the right, and here they actually come down. As we move down, we then have the iris and the pupil and a white reflection in there. Inside the reflection, you can see the eyelashes coming through from the top. In the iris, we've got all these bands, these elastic strips coming out of the pupil. And then in the eyeball itself, we've actually got some minor, very faint veins. On the left, we've got the tear duct with two reflections in there. And then if we move underneath, we have the rim of the lower lid. So often we forget to draw that when we're drawing eyeballs, but depending on the angle that you can see, usually you can see this one. Underneath that, you have these big bottom eyelashes coming out here. And then we have two little wrinkles just underneath the eye there. Finally, let's just think about the structure of the face. So here you've got the bridge of the nose, so that will come down this side. And then here you've got the eyebrow bone, so that bulges out in front of you. And then finally, you've got the start of the cheekbone here. So there's a lot going on in this picture. And I really want us to start thinking about all of these elements so that when we come to our drawing, it's much easier and we're not missing any details out. So for our first stage, now that we've done our observation, we're going to start our outline. So I want you to outline all of these edges where dark meets light. So we have the obvious shape of the almond for the general eye. We've got a very faint rim here, so don't come all the way because we have no dark meeting light on this rim here. But we do have the eyelid. We've got the general shape of the eyebrow. And then we can maybe add two very, very faint wrinkles in there. Obviously, don't forget your iris, your pupil, and your reflection. So let's start that now. The tools that I'm going to use throughout this drawing is the 2B pencil. So this will start me off for my outline and my basic shading. Next, we have our 8B pencil. So this is going to be really good for our darker values and any shading that we need to do within the eye. And then finally, the 2H. So this pencil is going to be really good for refining that skin and making everything blend super nice. So let's start with the outline. So I'm going to start with that general almond shape on the eye. And I'm really thinking about where it starts to peak and where it starts to fall. So you could be quite sketchy at this stage because our shading is really going to help refine everything. And when we're shading, we're always fixing our shape. We're always improving it. So if it's not perfect at this stage, don't worry, because at mine it probably won't be either. So there we have the edge of that rim. So I'm just coming about a third of the way across, because over here, if I continued, we're actually adding a dark value where there is none. Okay, so this is very, very light in there. Next, I'm going to add the eyelid. So I'm leaving quite a gap, probably bigger than it actually needs to be, because we have quite a dark rim where the eyelashes are. Just forks out at that side. Let's put our iris in there. There's a tiny gap where the iris meets that rim at the bottom. I'm going to pop my reflection in first. Followed by my pupil. So again, I've done it a little bit smaller because that allows me to then make it bigger. It's much easier to make a dark shape bigger than it is to make it smaller, because removing a dark shape or a dark value is very difficult. So let's move it into the tear duct. I think mine could be a little bit longer. One, two. And then let's grab the eyebrow. So just notice how far in the eyebrow comes. So it's just to the left of the iris there. Again, keep it quite sketchy. And then finally, a very faint wrinkle. Okay, so there's our outline. Next stage is shading.